Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome for joining us this afternoon, where we're going to be talking all about early years initial teacher training. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes to make sure that everybody has got into the session okay and can hear us okay. So I'll just do a few little things for you to remember. We will send you the recording afterwards and we'll send you a copy of the slides. So please don't feel that you have to be taking lots of notes. And we'll make sure that we share with you the email for the team in case you've got any follow-up questions afterwards. Okay, I think I can see we've got lots of people in, so we'll make a start. Today's session is really to give you a little bit of a taster so you can experience what it's like if you were on the programme as an early years initial teacher training trainee. So I'm going to talk to you lots about the programme, the different aspects within it, and what the different things might be that you might be doing each week or each month whilst you're on programme. Please do feel free to ask any questions as we're going along. You'll see there's the Q&A box at the bottom, and the members of the team on the call with me are going to be helping me answering those questions as we go along. And equally, we'll make sure we've got time at the end to answer any other queries. So if we start off, I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction to the different routes that we can have for early years teacher training. The two main types that you can see on the screen are the graduate entry route, or GE for short, or the graduate employment-based route if you're already employed in a setting. So you can see there's a couple of differences to those routes, and you might be considering which one you fit into. So the GE route or graduate entry is if you're not currently employed in an early years setting or school. The huge benefit of this, as you can see, is it's fully funded by the DfE, and depending on your degree classification, you could be entitled up to £5,000 in bursary payments. Placement needs to be a big element of the programme for you if you're not employed in a setting. So you get to spend lots of time across those different age groups in the early years to develop your knowledge. For both routes, you'll see that there's a training element. So you'll be invited to an online or a face-to-face session to focus on different aspects of the curriculum. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that as we go through the session. If you are employed in a setting, again, it's fully funded, so there's no training costs for you to complete this programme, which is fantastic. But also, there's a little bit of a bonus for your employer. So you'll see there on the screen, there is a £7,000 employer incentive payment that your employer can use to support you whilst you're on programme. Placement obviously looks a little bit different because you typically will be working full-time or a minimum of 16 and a half hours. So for you, the placement tends to be about 25 days in a contrasting setting. And that's why we class that route as part-time training. We might have some childminders on the call today as well. I hope we do. We've very much been promoting our childminder offer and our childminder route. So there are some things, again, that we've made very specific to your context, and I'll try and pick up on those as we go through the different slides. So in terms of the programme and what it feels like and what kind of systems you'll be interacting with, as I said, there are training days that happen roughly each month, and those are led by my expert team of facilitators who are all experts in early years and love getting everybody together to talk about the different elements of the programme. You do have the option there whether or not you want to attend a face-to-face session close by to where you live, or if you prefer, a virtual session online. So you can do there what suits you best. And again, we get really, really good feedback from both face-to-face and virtual. We do use an online platform called Mosaic, and that's a platform that we use where you can upload all of your work, any of your assessment, you can show us how you're working on your targets, and there's lots of study modules on there as well, and things like study packs that you can do in your own time. Really, really important that you've got a personal tutor who is there to support you all the way through the programme. And the personal tutors, again, within my team, are all early years experts. Many of them still work in early years settings or have done previously. And they're there really to help you every step of the way. So, again, whether that is via email, via Teams calls, coming to visit you face to face in your setting, they'll make sure that you can succeed. In your own setting, if you are employed on the GEB route, we do ask you to try and identify someone who can be in a lead trainer role. And that person is going to be there to help to organize the day-to-day things that are happening in your setting, making sure that you get a little bit of time to study, making sure that you can attend your training day because there's somebody in to cover you staffing wise. And again, making sure that you can be released when it comes to you going out on placement. Another key person to consider is your placement or your setting mentor. So, somebody in your setting and somebody in your placement needs to have those right skills to observe you every week and to give you some feedback that's going to help to improve your teaching. This will be really individual to each of you. So, again, if you are a childminder and you work on your own, that mentor support could look a little bit different. So, for example, something that we do really, really well at Best Practice Network is put that mentor support in place for you. So, we do have a flexible mentor offer where we have mentors again within my team that can step in and be in that role again to help you to succeed. So you might be thinking, what does it feel like across the year? And, what does it look like in each term? Well, everybody starts in the induction phase at the beginning. And during that induction period, we make sure that you understand how to access things, you feel comfortable finding where the resources are, and you've had a basic induction on the different systems. Again, during that point, we do a little maths diagnostic on a system called BKSB. And this is just because anybody who's doing teacher training does have to demonstrate that they've got those fundamental skills in maths and in English. You can see across each term, there's a few things that stay the same. So you're always going to go to your training days. You're always going to have an end of term review with your mentor and with your tutor. But again, there are some slight differences in those terms. So you can see in term 2, we do lots of work on a leadership plan. And that's where you can identify things that are going to support you to lead your team. Or perhaps you want to start up a new initiative in your setting and you're going to lead on a new project. In term 3, you can see that you have a reflective account. And that's a written piece that you need to submit against the level 6 criteria. But again, you'll see as we go through the slides today that at each of those points, if it's something different that you're being assessed on, there's lots of support to help you to feel really well prepared for that. And because you've made such good progress across those 3 terms, we then go into our recommendation period. And during that period, that's when we look at the early years teacher standards and make that final summative assessment. But then we don't even leave it there. So when you are successful and you get your status, we also put a transition plan in place for you. And that's to make sure that you feel well supported in your first year as an early years teacher. Perhaps when you get the status, it means that you take on a promotion in your setting or you take on an additional responsibility, for example, the Senko. So again, we make sure that that support still stays with you after you've completed the program. Something that we do get asked lots about is what kind of things do we cover on the training days? What are the key topics, that you're going to be learning and you're going to be finding out more about? So you can see a nice overview there, which focuses on our 8 core training days. Just to give you a little bit more of a flavour, for example, if we looked at day 4, where it says Foundations for Success, that's all about how we can support children to develop early communication skills, which lead into phonics, and also early mathematical skills. If, for example, we have a look at day 2, where it's all about adapting teaching, that's where we have a really strong focus on best practice approaches for children who have maybe got special educational needs or a disability. When we get through to day 8, for example, where it's the reflective early years teacher, that's really drawing on all of the knowledge and the different areas of the curriculum that we've covered to see what you think. How has your pedagogy, how has your curriculum knowledge changed since you started on day 1? How prepared do you feel to teach in the early years phase? And after those 8 core training days, at the end of the program, as you can see, we have a final interview. And it's fantastic to see all the amazing work that people bring to those interviews and share the difference that they've made in their settings with the children that they're working with. So just to give you a bit of an idea of the curriculum map and how that all links together, you can see on the curriculum wheel that right in the center is the child, and everything we do is about improving those outcomes for children. If you look at some of those pink segments, I'm sure it's no surprise. If you're going to be an expert in the early years, you need to have that really deep understanding of the frameworks that we're working with. So, for example, your knowledge of the early years foundation stage is absolutely key. If we think about how that develops on that continuum of learning, how does that learning in the EYFS change into those national curriculum expectations in school? Adaptive teaching, which I've just touched on in the training days, is something that we've got to be doing all the time if we're working with the very youngest children. Are we making sure that the way that we teach particular elements are suited to those individual children? Have we considered how our practice is inclusive? Of course, again, if we're thinking about the youngest children, you've got to have a really strong knowledge of child development. And those themes that you can see around the outside in the purple boxes on the wheel are what we call our 5 core themes. And those themes run through everything that we do on program. So, for example, if you're observed by your mentor teaching a session, they're going to talk about your curriculum knowledge. If you're having a conversation with your tutor at the end of term, they're going to talk to you about how you understand children's behaviour and how you're adapting your approaches. So you'll see that those themes are threaded through absolutely everything that we do on programme. And if you cover all of the different aspects and the different things that you need to do, you will absolutely demonstrate all of the evidence you need to hit those early years teacher standards. So we called the session today a day in the life of an early years teacher trainee. And actually, I thought it'd be useful if we had a look at what does a typical day look like? What does a typical week look like? So you can see whether or not you think this program is well suited to you. So a typical day for anyone, regardless of the route that you're on, is about spending that time directly with children. If you're employed, that's going to be the children in your setting. If you're on placement, it's going to be getting to know those children, families, and colleagues in that setting. A huge part of what you do is going to be your observation and your assessment, that again is part of your job if you're employed in a setting. Some of it is going to be about those teaching and learning sequences that we saw on that overview. So it's about you teaching activities that you've planned based on that knowledge that you're learning on the program. It is all about reflection on your own practice. So throughout the program, there's a big, strong focus on how you can be a reflective practitioner and how that helps your practice to continually improve. There'll be lots of discussions that you have with parents, with colleagues, and your mentor each day. Because again, your mentor is there to support you, but also your parents and your colleagues may have different ways that they can link in with the things that you're working on program. So, what about a typical week? What might you expect? What looks different? The key thing here is the observations of your practice. So your mentor is going to do an observation every week. for 30 minutes. They're going to observe you, they're going to give you some feedback, and they're going to share all the strengths you've got, as well as encouraging you to move forward and again, perhaps develop your teaching in a particular area. Maybe it's your questioning, maybe it's the strategies that you use, maybe it's something about your resources. It is really important because it's a level 6 program that you do invest some time in reading and researching. So, to help you with the different age groups you're working within, there's suggested reading that we'll give you, there's things that you can click into on our platform to help you to develop that knowledge. It is really important that each week you get some study time. Now, if you're on any teacher training course like EYITT, you are entitled to 10% of your working hours as study time. Just like you would as a teacher, you need to have that opportunity to be away from the children, to have a quiet space, to be able to assess, to be able to plan, and to be able to work on your paperwork. Now, I've put that down under the typical week, but it can look different in different settings. It might be, for example, for you, that you and your mentor agree rather than have a short period of time each week, you'd rather have a longer chunk across the month. So there is some flexibility within that, but it's very important you get your study time. Every week, what we would expect is you upload some of the things that you're working on. If you have started a plan for an activity, if you upload it to Mosaic, it means that your tutor can give you some feedback on it and they can guide you through that process. It's not about things being perfect on there, it's very much a working in progress. So you're doing things in collaboration with other people. And again, really important that you keep in contact with your tutor and your mentor so they know what you're working on. If you've got any questions, again, they'll be there to help you. In terms of a typical month, what would you expect? You're going to have that opportunity to attend your training day. We do ask you to do a short monthly reflection so that again, you are reflecting on what you've learnt on your training day. You may be thinking about what work you've done in your setting that week, or maybe you've learnt something new about safeguarding or a different area. That's the kind of thing we want you to put into your reflection. It is important that each month you keep a bit of an eye on what deadlines are due, what kind of work you need to submit. And we do give you an overview of the whole key dates for each term right at the start of the programme. So there's no surprises. You can use that to help and plan your time. And it's really important that you can work towards your targets. So if there's things that your mentor or your tutor or yourself have identified, we can see that progress that's happening each month. And then across each term, as you saw on that diagram at the beginning, we always have an end of term review. And that's an opportunity for you to get together with your tutor and your mentor online and have a discussion about how you think things have gone. Again, celebrate the things that you're doing really well and set some targets for the next term, which help you to keep on track. Placement is a really exciting element of the program. So we would expect that on some terms, or sometimes people split it across different terms, that you can sort your placement blocks out and go on your contrasting placement. You'll also have some face-to-face visits from your personal tutor. So that's at least 5 visits across the course of the programme. If you're employed in a setting or as a childminder, you're working in your own setting, they'll come to that setting first. They'll also come out to visit you on your placement. And another exciting element of the programme is that on top of your training days, we always offer some enhancement sessions. So we tend to do here inviting expert speakers. So, for example, some of the people we've had over the last couple of years, we've had Kerry Murphy, who's come to do a talk on neurodiversity for us. We've had Jeanette Bason-Wood, who's come and done some work on Squiggle Me Into a Writer. And we had a lady come to speak to us all about maths mastery recently for the cohort that we've got on program. So those are things that, again, you can choose to come to if you want to in addition. Now, placement is something that we always get asked lots and lots of questions about. And there are some things that everybody has to meet in terms of the DFE criteria, but there are some things that will look different depending on your own situation. So, key things to remember here, if you're wanting to study for your early years teacher status, everybody has got to spend time in each of the different age groups. So that's babies, toddlers, preschool, reception, key stage one and key stage two. So you've got to have that practical experience across all of those age groups as a minimum. Each of you gets to do 25 days as a minimum placement. Now, again, this could look a little bit different. For example, if you're working in a school, your 25 days on placement would need to be with babies and toddlers and perhaps preschool. If you're working in a PVI setting and you've got babies, toddlers, and preschool where you work, your 25 days is going to be in school. And that's typically 20 days in reception and 5 days across Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. If you're a childminder, again, clearly that's going to depend on the ages of the children and the number of children that you have on roll in your setting. So again, you might be able to cover lots of those different age groups in your home setting, and you might just need to go on your placement in school. But we'll make sure that the tutor spends time with you working out what those placements need to look like. If you're a graduate entry student, then you've got your 120 days of placement to do. We do say, please, that we like that to be for at least 4 days a week. That's to enable you to get to know the children really well and to really feel like you're part of that setting. We can support GEs with organising placements because we have a placements team. If you are employed in a setting, we encourage you to find your own placement. But that being said, if you can't source a placement, if you struggle, the placements team again will help you, as will your tutors. So probably the other important thing to pick up there, as you can see in the bold, is that you have to have at least two different settings for those age groups. For some people, it could even end up being three. So the easiest example to give there would be if you're currently working in a preschool and you've only got 3 to 4 year olds, you're going to need to do a placement with babies and toddlers, but you're also going to need to do your placement in school. And that again is to make sure you get to cover all of those different age groups. Again, there's a lot of flexibility with that. So we can very much look at when is a good time for you to go on placement. Do you need to split that placement into 2 lots of 2 weeks rather than it being in a block of 4? So all of those different unique situations, we're very used to sorting them and supporting. If you want to think about how you're going to be assessed, we saw a little bit of it on that diagram, but it's very, very formative. So the things that we're looking for each term on program is the things that you'll be doing on program. So your weekly observations from your mentor or your observation from your personal tutor. That's one way that we can assess how well you're doing on program. There's the reflective account that I mentioned at the beginning, and then there's the sequences of work and there's your targets. So if you're busy working away on all of those and progressing, it's really, really going to help you to master those teacher standards. And then we make that summative judgment at the end and we put that forward to exam board and you'll be successful in getting your status. There's lots of things that we've got in place to help you succeed. So some of them I've touched on already, like the personal tutor and the mentor. But we do also have a regional lead tutor team. So in each region of the country, we have a regional lead who works closely with the personal tutors and the other key staff in your area. If, for example, you feel you might need some extra support in terms of any individual needs, we do have, again, a full inclusion team who are there to support you and guide you. So we can look at different strategies that will support you whilst you're on program. And there's also a neurodiversity network that we have set up. If you feel on program that you might need some wellbeing support, again, we have a team of mental health first aiders. If for you, your English as additional language, again, there's a network group there, and there are different support strategies that we can put in place to help you with the different elements that you'll be working on program. Hopefully, like I said, we've also got some childminders on the call today. We have a full childminder offer. So there are lots of different things that we put in place as you go through each step to help to make sure that it suits your childminding context. And we do have a childminding lead called Maxine Forrest. So again, I'll make sure I share her email at the end if people have got questions that they want to follow up with. As I said, it's ongoing support. So there are things like face-to-face visits, there are meetings online, lots of discussions, and your training days. But there's also that full resource bank, and you can really tap into that as much as you would like to at a time that suits you. So we do have things like a YouTube playlist. If you want to watch something back again in your own time and listen to that recording, you absolutely can. And as we get to the different parts on the program, like the reflective account, again, there are workshops that we'll invite you to that will help you at that stage. And our aim is at the end of the program that you feel really, really confident and prepared to go and teach in the early years. So we know it's going to give you that really deep subject knowledge. You're going to be a really reflective teacher. You're going to feel really confident at leading and supporting others and seeing the difference that it makes in your setting. You're going to have a really good toolkit of different strategies that are helping you to support children's development. And ultimately, as I said at the beginning, it's about making a difference to children's lives and helping to improve their outcomes. And I did just want to finish up by saying the cohort that have just finished, we had 100% of our students that would recommend our program to somebody else, which is absolutely fantastic. But I don't just want you to take it from me. We do have here a short video which has got a little bit of feedback that's come through from our students who've just finished our program. So I'm going to play the video. You can all have a look at some of the quotes and some of the things that they've had to say about the program.
Hey, it's Jimmy. So here's my little graduation video. Obviously, I want to thank everyone at Best Practice Network, but my setting, Buds at Blossom in Chinna. Hugely grateful for them supporting me through this. And a standout moment, it's got to be placement. Placement was amazing, going from a little bit unsure of how to operate in a school to feeling confident in my craft. And that's what this course has given me. So really grateful for everyone. Thank you so much.
I've really enjoyed studying my EYITT. I feel like I've learnt a lot, and I've especially enjoyed being able to meet other practitioners from all over the country to share practice and to hear their experiences. I'm really looking forward to how my studies are going to improve my practice and sharing my learning with my staff team going forward. I'm hoping in the future that it's going to open new doors for my career, and I hope to study further.
So I hope it was nice for you to hear some of that feedback from the students that have just graduated. And I'm going to just open up now to Charlene or Stephen. Um, have we had many questions in the Q&A box? Hopefully you've managed to answer them. Is there anything that you want to kind of open up to me now? I can't hear you, Stephen, if you're trying to talk. You're still on mute. Do we feel that we've answered all the questions that people have posted in, or is there anything that anyone would like me to pick up on?
Yeah, I think it's fine so far, and I think we're open for a few more questions, and we'll see.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that everybody's having their questions answered. Have we shared the EYITT email in case anyone wants to contact us afterwards? And it might be useful if we also put in Maxine's email for any of the childminders that are interested. Shall I post that one in now?
No worries. For everyone joining late or would like to review the webinars, we will be sending the webinars recording after the today, and that will be including the emails of our EYTT emails and also Maxine's emails. So if you have any questions about the EYTT or about childminders specifically, like questions, so please feel free to just pop us like questions and pop your problem. Don't worry. Don't feel shy.
Perfect. Okay. Charlene, is there anything you feel needs answering, or are we all good?
We've got a question from Danielle and Abigail.
You able, let me have a look and see
Yep.
if I can pick that one up. So
So
Danielle, you've asked about the 120 days of placement. So yeah, the 120 days of placement is to be completed across the whole course of the program. So again, when you think about it, because you've got to cover babies, toddlers, preschool reception, key stage 1 and key stage 2, we tend to break that down into blocks. So for example, you might spend 30 days with babies, 30 days with toddlers. But again, that would be dependent on your experience. So again, you might have a wealth of experience, for example, with preschool. Therefore, we might focus more of that time in a different age group. We do try to suggest with that as well that you do have breaks in between to again, one, allow you to have a break in terms of your own well-being. Perhaps if you've got a family, you might want to have that term time off. And equally, it gives you the opportunity to write up the work that you've been working on during that time. So we very much work with you to space that placement time out, but to make sure you hit that 120 days requirement. We've got Abigail saying she's not currently working. So if you're not currently working, Abigail, that's absolutely fine. You could apply for our GE or our graduate entry route. Danielle, you said the rest of the time, do you not need to be in the EYITT session over the year? So I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. You can add something else extra in there if you want to. So you very much follow the same schedule as the people that are in the employed setting. So whilst you've got a large proportion that is placement, you still come and join the training days like everybody else does. And as GEs, you also have some additional workshops that sit on top of that. So again, you're invited to some online sessions to support you as a GE group. Whoever Anonymous is, really good question around the phonics. So yes, we do cover phonics. There's a lot of input in terms of communication and language because of course it's a prime area in the EYFS and how that helps to support that phonics knowledge as children get older. Part of your placement that everybody does in reception class is focused on teaching of phonics. So you will observe, you'll work alongside the teacher, you'll deliver a phonics scheme. And again, hopefully, if you're confident, you'll build up to leading the full class. Okay, that's fine, Danielle. I'm glad I've answered your question. Again, if there's anything on that, do let me know. Abigail, you've asked about the GE route and the applications being open. Okay, so we have some quite specific windows for the GEs this year. So we've got set deadlines. Stephen, I don't know if you've got those handy. We have just had our first 2-week window that was open for the GEs, but we have another one, I think, that's coming up in April time. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes, this is something that I just want to add in. So recently we are just open for the GEB and the childminder routes. So which is pretty much for those working as a childminders or working in the early year settings. GE routes, we have a window open and closed at end of last month. We will have a short window open in mid-April. If you're interested in the GE route, it's just you to go into our website, register your interest. So once we have the exact date of the window open, we will send everyone an email. So you will make sure that you will have the first notice there.
Perfect. That's great. Mimi, you've asked, you're currently not working, but you do have a degree. What would be the best option for you? So again, if you're not working, if you're not currently employed in an early years setting, you can do the GE route. If you think that you might be applying for a job, if your aim is to be working in a setting, you've obviously still got some time to secure a job before September. So ultimately, if you do want to be employed in a setting and you manage to secure a job, you would then be on the graduate employment based route. So you've got both options basically. It's probably best for you to think about where you see yourself in September when that next cohort starts. It doesn't stop you from applying. For example, if we offered you a place as a GE and you then managed to secure a job, we can change the route that you're on before we start the program. So please just go ahead and apply. And again, the team will help you with your next steps. So fantastic. We do have a childminder on the call. So in terms of the length of the program, we start in September and you have your final interview the following July. So you tend to get your status in the August. So it's classed as a full-time 12-month program. Can you talk a little bit about the teaching and learning sequences? Absolutely. So, in terms of the teaching and learning sequences, as I said, you need to focus on different things in the different age groups. So, we do a total of 5 sequences across the course of the program. For babies and toddlers, they have to be focused on a prime area of the EYFS, and one of them needs to be communication and language. When you're in preschool, we focus on mathematics. When you're in reception, we focus on mathematics and phonics. And Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 is more observation. You're not having to lead teaching in those age groups. In terms of what those sequences look like, it's very much about you identifying a child or a group of children and what your rationale is for focusing on that area. So let's say, for example, you decide in the baby room you want to focus on personal, social, and emotional development. What you then need to do is research around that area. So it might be that you want to focus on relationships and you look at what kind of theories you might want to look at, for example, attachment theory. You will then plan a set of activities to support that focus area, and then you'll assess the children again at the end. And your aim, of course, is to see if they've made progress. And then you reflect on the progress they've made and also any changes to your teaching. The 5th sequence that I didn't mention is the send sequence. And the send sequence, you can choose any age group to focus on. So, for example, if you're in a school setting and you don't have a child who has any additional learning needs, you might choose to focus on a child when you're out on placement. So there's a bit more flexibility there with your sequence. We've got somebody working as supply, not employed, by a school. Can I continue working and studying? In terms of being on program, unfortunately, we can use a supply role. So you do need to be employed in a setting for the full duration of the program for at least 16 and a half hours a week. Danielle, you're saying, do you have intake limits? So yes, we do have a set number of spaces which were given from the DFE. Unfortunately, once they're all filled, they are gone. So if you're interested, I would 100% say get that application in. Don't miss out. Make sure that you secure your spot on the programme. Do I need voluntary experience in school before applying for the GE route? So yes, if possible, what we do ask is that you can do 10 days volunteering before you start the programme. That doesn't need to be done before you apply though. So still go ahead and apply. Get your application in. We can still interview you. We can still give you a conditional offer. And then you've got all that time before September to complete your 10 days. And it just gives you that real opportunity to make sure that it's right for you, get some of that hands-on experience in a setting. So when's the next cohort of students and how do you apply? So our next cohort will be starting in September this year. Applications are open now, apart from the GE route, like Stephen said, but it will be opening soon, so keep your eyes out for that in April. It's really straightforward in terms of applying. So when you go onto our website, on that page, you'll see there's a button which says apply now. You click on there and you start to submit some of your own details. So again, it's going to ask you a few questions in terms of your degree, your GCSEs, some of your personal details, and that's how we start. And then the team will be there to help you each step of the way. Do we accept every person that applies? Unfortunately not. We wish that we could. It very much will depend on if you meet the eligibility criteria. So you do need to have a degree or an equivalent level 6 qualification. You also need to have GCSEs in English, Maths and Science, and they need to be at a grade 4 or a grade C on the old system or above. If you don't have your GCSEs in those subjects or maybe in one of them, again, don't let that deter you. You do have the option to do an equivalency test. And we do offer discounts for those through Best Practice Network, and we actually offer maths for free. So again, if anybody needs some information on equivalencies, please do use the EYITT at email, and they will guide you with those next steps. In terms of knowing your outcome from the interview, once you've had your face-to-face interview, we will let you know within 10 working days whether or not you've been successful. If you are successful, again, we will send you an offer. Sometimes that might be conditional, like I said, because it may be that you haven't got your degree certificate handy and we need to have a copy of that. It might be that you need to have a DBS check because you haven't got one currently. So you may get a conditional offer. Again, you just need to accept that and then just make sure that you get that evidence in before the program starts. Really good questions. It's super having all those questions put in there because I think it helps everybody else that's on the call as well. They might be thinking the same thing as you. So thank you for posting those in there. I can't see any more that are open at the moment. So I hope you found the session interesting today and it's given you lots of information that you need. I would definitely say go and have a look on our website because there's lots of fantastic things on there. There's lots of frequently asked questions that might again help you after today. And please do get in touch with the team. So thanks everybody for joining. And I'm going to close the session now, but we hope to hear from you all soon.
Sorry,
Thanks
just to
very
add in
much.
here, just finally one more thing, add in for the GCSE equivalency test. So if you don't submit your applications, we are not able to support you on the equivalency test. So please don't keep it in as a draft. So complete your applications. Our team will, arrange a call with you, understand your situation, arrange interviews, and if you have any problems on GCSE, then we will support you on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important, Stephen. We have lots of people in every cohort that, again, apply and have those conditions to work to, and we will help you to get ready for that cohort start in September. Super. Thanks very much, everybody. Hope you all have a lovely evening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye bye.